So today we're going to start Unit 2 and we're going to be working with equations, solving equations, and we're going to have variables on both sides. And before we start, we need to review what you guys learned last year. When you guys solve equations, you guys learned that, well, you learned two steps, which was A, which is undo adding and subtracting of a constant term. You guys should have also have learned that M means you undo multiplying and dividing of a variable term. And then some teachers also teach you guys the last thing when it comes to two-step equations, which you learned last year, is to check your solutions. This year we're going to add a step before all these, which is going to be represented by the letter I, which means isolate the variable term. You're going to have variable terms on both sides, and so you're going to have to undo either adding or subtracting of a variable term. So if your variable term is positive, you're going to have to undo it by subtracting. And if your variable term is negative, you're going to have to undo it by adding. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. Here we have an equation, 2a minus 8 equals 4a plus 6. First thing you want to do is you want to write your steps. Okay. The I stands for isolate the variable terms, and so you can see we have a variable term on both sides of the equation. We got positive 2a and we got positive 4a. So we want to undo one of them. Well, I tell my students to undo the smallest one. So in this case, the smallest one between positive 4a and positive 2a is going to be positive 2a. So how do we undo positive 2a? Well, we're going to have to subtract 2a from both sides. So 2a minus 2a equals 0. And 4a minus 2a equals 2a, and so you end up with negative 8 equals 2a plus 6. Sorry for it going so fast. And so now we go to the next step, which is A, which means undo adding and subtracting of a constant term. Well, we have a constant term on both sides. We got negative 8 and we got positive 6. But we want to isolate that variable term. We want 2a by itself. So which constant term are we going to undo? We're going to undo positive 6. How do you undo positive 6? Well, you subtract 6 from both sides. 6 minus 6 equals 0. So you end up with 2a. You got negative 8 minus 6. They're at peace. And so you end up with negative 14. Then we go to M, which is undo multiplication or division of a variable term. Our variable term is 2a, which means 2 times a. So how do you undo multiplying by 2? Well, you're going to divide both sides by 2. And so you end up with 2a divided by 2, which equals 1a, which is just plain a. And on the opposite side, you end up with negative 4 divided by negative 2, which is negative 7. So we end up with the solution of negative 7 equals a, which is the same thing as a equals negative 7. So now in order to do the final step of checking, you need to take your solution and substitute into the equations for the variable. So let's go ahead and I'll check the first one for you. We write down the original equation, and then we're going to substitute. Instead of 2 times a, it's going to be 2 times negative 7 minus 8. And it's going to equal 4. Instead of 4 times a, it's going to be 4 times negative 7 plus 6. And so what you need to do is you need to simplify each side of the equation. You got multiplying and you got subtracting on the left, so you're going to multiply first. So you end up with negative 4 minus 8. On the opposite side, you have multiplying, you got adding. And so in the order of operations, you multiply first. And so you end up with negative 28 plus 6. And then you simplify each side, you use war and peace, and you end up with negative 22 equals negative 22. And because this is a true statement, that means that our solution of a equals negative 7 is correct. The good thing about these equations is you can always check your solutions. So you already should know if you're right before you even turn in your homework. All right, number 2. First thing we want to do is write the steps. Isolate the variable terms. We got the variable terms on both sides. We got negative 6d and negative 5d. Well, I always tell the kids to get rid of the smallest one. So what is smaller, negative 6 or negative 5? Well, negative 6 is smaller, so let's get rid of negative 6d. How do you undo subtracting 6d? You're going to add 6d to both sides. And negative 6d plus 6d cancels out, so you end up with 4 equals negative 5d plus 6d equals 1d. And so you end up with 1d minus 8 on the right-hand side. Then you go to A, undo adding and subtracting of a constant term. We want to get rid of negative 8 because it's next to our variable term. How do you undo negative 8? You add 8 to both sides, and you end up with 12 equals 1d, which is just d. And then you want to check your solutions. But for the sake of time on this video, I'll save the checking for you guys. You guys can do that on your own. Let's do number 3. Here we have 6x minus 4 equals 5x minus 2. Write your steps down. Isolate the variable term, undo adding and subtracting of a constant, undo multiplying and dividing of a variable term, and check your solution. We got variable terms on both sides. We got 6x and 5x. So which one do we want to undo? We want to undo positive 5x. How do you undo positive 5x? Well, you subtract 5x from both sides. And so you end up with an equation of x, 6x minus 5x is x. You end up with minus 4. And on the other side, 5x minus 5x equals 0. They cancel out, so you end up with negative 2. Now let's undo our constant. The constant is negative 4 that we want to undo because it is next to our variable term. How do you undo negative 4? You're going to add 4 to both sides. 4 and negative 4 cancel out. Negative 2 plus 4. You end up with positive 2. So you end up with the solution of x equals 2. And then you want to check your solution. Number 4 on your homework, we end up with, here we got 22r minus 33 equals 53r minus 95. Write down your steps. Isolate the variable term, undo adding and subtracting of a constant, undo multiplying and dividing of a variable term, and then check your solutions. Again, same thing you guys did last year, except we're adding one more step. So we have to isolate the variable term. We got 22r and 5r on either side of the equation. So let's get rid of the smallest. So we need to undo positive 22r by subtracting 22r from both sides. So on the left-hand side, the 22r and the minus 22r cancel out. You end up with negative 33 equals, and then 53r minus 22r, you end up with 31r minus 95. Now we have to undo our constant, which is negative 95. How do you undo negative 95? You add 95 to both sides. And so when you add 95 to both sides, you end up with positive 62 equals 31r, because negative 95 plus 95 cancel out, and negative 33 plus 95 ends up being positive 62. Now we go to undo multiplying and dividing of a variable term. Your variable term is 31r, which means 31 times r. So how do you undo multiplying by 31? Well, you're going to divide both sides by 31. 62 divided by 31 is going to equal 2. And 31r divided by 31 is going to be 1r. So you end up with 2 equals r. And so then you want to check your solutions on your own. So this is a little bit more advanced from what you guys learned in 7th grade. And make sure you guys learn the steps. Isolate the variable term, undo adding and subtracting of a constant, undo multiplying and dividing a variable term, and check your solutions. We're actually going to be adding a couple more steps before, but this is the first 4 problems on your homework tonight, so I hope this helped you guys complete the rest of the assignment. Thank you.